Today on Dr. Phil. Feuding neighbors.
You're attracting iguanas to your neighbor's properties.
They crap everywhere.
You're feeding them out of your mouth and they have salmonella.
I'm immune to salmonella.
It says don't feed wildlife.
Unknown wildlife. Iguana is known.
Go live in the Everglades.
I'm very calm, but you're starting to wake me.
Go ahead, set an alarm, wake up. I'm done with you, man.
Let's do it.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
This is a safe place to talk about hard things.
Stand by. We'll count you down.
Today is going to be a changing day in your life.
5, 4.
Get ready to take care of you. Today is the final day of Feuding Neighbors Week, and we couldn't finish the week without a unique feud between neighbors. And it all centers around a certain creature that can be found in South Florida, the iguana. Now, Darren is a resident in an upscale gated community who admittedly took it upon himself to feed these wild creatures, but his neighbor Matthew said the seemingly harmless act was wreaking havoc as it encouraged the iguanas to overpopulate the area, attack his pets, and poop all over the exterior of his house. In this episode titled, Feuding Neighbors, Stop Feeding the Iguanas, we got to the bottom of this controversy and found out what was really at stake.
Iguanas are wreaking havoc on the Sunshine State. The number of iguanas in Florida has soared in recent years.
They're disgusting. They are absolutely gross. They're dirty.
Meryl Alpert is far from thrilled to share her space with iguanas.
They're a nuisance.
Meryl says they have eaten most of her plants, broken her planters, and leave their droppings everywhere.
City officials say an iguana was responsible for a large-scale power outage this afternoon.
A Southwest Florida man is using a strange method to invasive iguanas out of his yard.
Richard Dahlstrom told me he was tired of it, so he decided to hang up these CDs in his yard to deter them.
It turns out that flashy items interfere with their eyesight.
Neighbors tell me these iguanas are really a problem for two reasons. One, they leave messes like this, but they also dig holes that could damage these neighbors' property.
For Harold Rondon, he uses a different type of approach to keep the common pests out of people's yards.
So we have to use air guns, which is regulated here in the state of Florida. There's a certain pellet that you need to use, a certain place you need to hit them. It has to be humane.
Florida's Wildlife Agency is encouraging homeowners to kill green iguanas that show up on their property.
Homeowners, lay people that don't understand iguanas should not go and try to take the matters into their own hands because they could get hurt.
My first guest, Darren, says when he moved into his new townhome in the Miami metropolitan area last year with his wife and children, he was welcomed by friendly neighbors until he started feeding green iguanas on his property with his hand and his mouth. Now, Darren says some neighbors have complained, cursed at him, and even reported him to the Homeowners Association. But he says it's just because they're jealous because the iguanas eat their plants and not his. Well, okay. And yeah, this is a real issue and it's threatening to tear this once tranquil neighborhood apart.
I'm having an issue with a majority of my neighbors. I love to feed the iguanas. I'm friends with the iguanas. I take care of the iguanas, and I'm starting to piss off a lot of people.
Come on, Bruno.
I can call them and they know my voice. They'll come out and hang out with me. I'll share my food with them. They don't need to go scrounging out there for food. I can give it to them. And the other neighbors are getting jealous. These are people that I've been friends with. The iguanas don't like them. It's not my fault that the iguanas eat their plants. If you were feeding them regular food, then they wouldn't go eat your plants. The lady next door, she's like, the iguanas are scaring my dog. I get verbally abused by the neighbors, calling me names, saying I need to stop this. I'm a freak, forest boy, they call me jungle boy. I'll put food in my mouth and let the iguanas eat from my mouth. I've been bitten by iguanas, scratched by iguanas. Iguanas crawl on me. All I want to do is live peaceful. And I don't need everybody being pissed off at me because I'm trying to do what I feel is right.
Well, Well, your friend kind of bit you there.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't expecting that one because they don't usually bite me. But I was trying to have a moment with it. I was playing music for it, and I went to feed it. And I think he thought one of my fingers was part of the food, and it literally bit me. I didn't know they had, honestly, like I didn't know they had razor-sharp teeth inside there because it looks like just gum like that. And that thing like just tore my finger up. Literally when I was shutting off the camera, like blood was dripping off my finger. It was crazy.
Yeah. You didn't know they had razor sharp teeth.
No, I didn't do that part of the
there.
research. Yeah, you see the blood?
Yeah, you might kind of want to check a few of those details out.
Yeah, well now I know, so I'm good.
Yeah.
You know?
And they scratch your chest and
oh yeah, I had scratches all over
your chest. Yeah.
It was all good.
You play music for them.
Yes. They were like, wow, this guy's cool, man. He plays music. He got the rain coming down. I mean, it was.
So you think that was going through their reptile brain? That
oh yeah,
this guy's cool. I like his music. He's good vibe around here.
So these creatures that people call pests and invasive and this and that, they're actually so smart. They know my face. They know my voice. I could come out there and go, come on, baby, come on, Bruno. And they'll come right to me.
So this is Bruno and Big Marge.
Yeah, Large Marge.
Large Marge?
Yeah, well, you can call her Big Marge, whatever you want to call her, but she knows Large Marge.
Yeah.
And then that's Bruno, yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't want to hurt her feelings, but she's not here, so.
Yeah, I don't think she'll be my, I'm going to show her this, I'll let her see the show and all, you know.
Yeah, do that. Now, you say the iguanas love Reese's chocolate cups?
Oh, yeah.
You feed those out of your mouth?
Yeah, I do, actually. There's a picture of Bruno eating it. So I was like, you know what? This is like really cool. It could be cool for the Reese's company to actually use that as a commercial or something. Like it loves it. It eats it in one bite. It's just like, oh.
Yeah, well, they might see this today.
Oh, yeah, and then they'll be like, hey, I want Bruno.
I can see the headline now. You know, Reese's poisons lizards. Because you know when you give them chocolate, they can't process. No, you give them sugar, they can't process that.
Well, it processed it because I saw what came out of it, and it like processed right through, and it's still there.
Yeah.
So
you know when you were saying you didn't check the razor sharp teeth, you ought to check this too because that's poison to those reptiles.
Well, now I know, so I'll have to switch it up.
You say you're called Nature Boy.
Yeah,
and by some of your neighbors because you like to feed these iguanas. What's their objection?
The iguanas go to their house, they eat their plants, they poop all over their patios and stuff, they attack their animals, supposedly, allegedly, attack their animals. They scare them. They don't want to come out on their patios because of the iguanas. But I'm like, I'm doing it.
So you're drawing the iguanas in, they ravage their flowers and attack their animals, and they're upset because you're drawing them in.
Well, I think it's just because the iguanas are going to their house for the reason that they're not feeding them. So they're eating their plants instead. See, I have a different outtake. I'm doing like reverse psychology. I'm feeding them, giving them what they want, so they're leaving my plants alone and they're not pooping on my deck. But they'll go over there and eat their plants and poop all over their place. But maybe if they started feeding them like I do, it'll totally change everything. And then they'll leave them alone. So
okay, well, we're going to see what one of Darren's neighbors thinks about this. And you may think, why are we talking about iguanas in Florida? We're just talking about people getting along. You know, there's a point where you have to say, you know, what can I do to get along? And that goes for both sides of any conflict. So we're going to meet one of the neighbors who calls Darren weird, obnoxious, and irritating.
Oh, Lord.
Next.
What one's that? He yells at me all the time. He's like a gorilla. And then he's like, oh, you let your iguana.
It's very easy to be tough when I'm in a different time zone.
My neighbors are getting so jealous. They're getting jealous because they see me having fun I even said to one of them, why do you have to be jealous? You can come over and feed the iguanas with me. I mean, enjoy this. If you went to like some tropical place, you would pay probably $200 to feed iguanas. What I do is an experience. Actually, I just came up with a good idea. I should do an Airbnb experience, have people come to my house, feed the iguanas on my patio, and I'll put a little gumball machine where you get the food out and all that, and really piss the neighbors off.
You just created a whole new industry right there on camera.
You know what? When I leave here, I'm going to start that.
Yeah, it sounds like a great idea.
It's amazing.
Or maybe not. We're talking about feuding neighbors today. And look, we have a lot of divisiveness in America right now. And it all starts at home. I mean, can you get along with each other? Can you get along with your neighbors? Should you do something just because you can? Darren says he's called Nature Boy by some of his neighbors for feeding wild green iguanas in their South Florida community. Now, the community has said they are a nuisance and you ought to shoot them and kill them. My next guest, Matthew, lives 3 houses away and says Darren ignored him when he asked him to stop feeding the iguanas that were damaging the homes, and now he can't stand Darren and wants him to move. Take a look.
When Darren first moved in, I thought he was a great guy. Now my thoughts have completely changed. He's a nightmare to live by. He's a nightmare to have in the community. Everything you're not supposed to do, he does. I'm just sick of him with the iguanas. Just feeding them constantly is an absolute nightmare. They used to want no part of people. The moment the door would open to the backyard, they would scatter. Now they see it as a signal like, oh, I'm gonna eat. Once he comes out and starts feeding them, more come out. My main issues are my dogs. Some of these things are big, like easily 5 feet. If one of them decided to grab a hold of my dog, they could do some damage. They eat plants, they crap and pee everywhere. My water bill is probably through the roof because I'm power washing my patio every couple weeks because of this guy. One day, I went over and he offered me like a piece of moss. So I'm like, no, what the hell am I gonna do with a piece of moss? That's pretty weird, man. And then he's like, oh, I named them. So I'm like, all right, I gotta get out of here. I've called him Tarzan. I've called him George of the Jungle. I've called him Dr. Doolittle because I guess he's the animal whisperer of the community. Lizard man.
Just got a little iguana.
You kind of hear him sometimes, like talking to these things.
Don't go.
It's kind of disturbing. He has him over like it's a happy hour. I have had my dogs poop and pee in his driveway, and I don't care if he sees me or not. He can clean it up, just like I have to clean up the stuff that he's causing. We've come to words. It's gotten heated. It hasn't gotten physical. I mean, it can if he wants to. Just stop what you're doing. Just stop.
Well, Matthew is joining us from South Florida. You're frustrated with your neighbor here.
Yeah, I really don't know where else to turn. I've had it with him.
Well, last time you saw him, Matthew, you yelled at him, and you guys just don't communicate or get along at all.
He yells at me all the time. He can't even walk down the street and see me without yelling something. He's like Sasquatch coming down. McGilla Gorilla. And then he's like, oh, you let your iguana. He's from New York. He got the whole like ghetto thing, New York accent thing going on. And
yeah, it's very easy to be tough when I'm in a different time zone. So we can see if you want to say that. We can see that when you want to see me. When you come back,
my own time zone. I could have stayed home in my own time zone and had this go on.
Well, he's calling you Jungle Boy. You just called him McGilla Gorilla.
Well, you should see him. He comes out, boom, boom. I see him come down the street. I don't even want to confront with him, but I'm like, here he goes again. It's like a shoestring, and then this little, like, I don't know what rats had in New York, but this thing came out, and he's like walking it down the street. I'm like, was that before the iguana got to it or after? I mean.
This is his dog?
One of them. I mean, there's a few, but this one's like, I mean, I wouldn't even let that thing in my house. And then he's worrying about the iguanas outside. I mean, come on, just.
You wouldn't let my dog in your house, but yet you feed wild animals from your mouth.
Yes, I do. So what?
Yeah.
You want to try it? See, that's the thing.
No, I don't want to try it. I think that's half the problem. I think that's the reason why we're here.
I'm very calm, but you're starting to wake me. And you don't want to see that.
Go ahead, set an alarm, wake up. I don't care. This is why nobody likes you, man.
neighbors like complained about me to the HOA, and they're really irritated. So they're starting to like gang up together and start to tell the board president about me. My neighbor Matt, him and I used to be friends, but he just started getting like really weird. He's the New Yorker. He's the one with the attitude who's really coming on strong about this. He's always like threatening and stuff like that. And when he's walking by, if I happen to come out, start yelling at me. So he wants to kick my ass.
He's been warned numerous times by the HOA to knock it off.
Here comes New York attitude with his, oh, you gotta stop feeding the iguanas.
Everybody's annoyed. It's quiet. And then he comes in, he got a little too comfortable and started doing this nonsense, aggravating everybody. I don't know anybody that likes him, I'll put it that way. If I was in charge, I'd be striking her out.
Well, Darren says his neighbor Matthew calls him Jungle Boy for feeding the wild green iguanas in his townhome community.
Whatever time zone you're on, when I get back, I'll let you experience this with me.
Let's not worry about experiences, and you should know what time zone. You're 3 doors down. Listen, you want to do this, you want to have the iguana experience, you want to be one with nature, you want to be all you can be with whatever you want. The Everglades is 45 minutes west.
And that's where I get my moss from.
Go live on the pond. Go live in the Everglades. This was not a problem until you started this nonsense. You started this garbage.
You know what? When I came to that community,
this is why nobody likes you, man. This is why nobody likes you. You gave off this whole
because
vibe
they're
when you
jealous
moved in.
like you.
Yeah, jealous.
You know
jealous
what?
of what? What would I possibly be jealous of?
Don't
Listen,
wake me, buddy.
I go to bed every night thinking,
He's
man,
gonna wake
you know
me
what?
one day.
Nothing makes me happier. Nothing would make me happier than to feed an iguana a Reese's peanut butter
I'm
cup.
a peaceful. You know what? So why don't you come over and try it? I'll let you try it.
I don't want to have anything to do with you. Why would I come over and do that?
You know what? I'm very calm, but you're starting to wake me, and you don't want to see that.
Go ahead, set an alarm. Wake up. I don't care. I'm done with you, man.
I'm gonna set an alarm, all right?
Yeah, set it. Go ahead.
You need to straighten him out. You know what? You should have came to our time zone, and we should have confronted him. Because he's whack.
Anytime you want. Anytime you want. You can come over.
Look
Dr.
at
Phil.
him.
Don't worry
He's just
about it.
crazy. I don't need this. I'm like
Well,
I was
you
peaceful
say-
when I got here, but now I'm starting to get aggravated because I see him up there. You're really annoying.
One of the last times, probably the last time that we hung out, he goes, hey, I want to give you something when you, and I'm like, all right, well, what is it? What do you want? And he goes, it's a piece of moss. I'm like, moss? I go, what am I going to do with a piece of moss? And he's like, oh, no, look, you could do this, you could do this. And he turns it over, and he named it. He named the piece of moss. He's like, yeah, if you talk to it, it'll grow. And I'm like, all right, you know what? Maybe I misjudged this guy. I got to get out of here because the next thing I know, God knows what he's going to be offering me. So
yeah, okay.
I took off.
This guy's a real.
So did you offer him some moss?
Yes, I did. And
what was its name?
I had them come over, like when people come over to people's houses and have dinner and stuff like that, you're welcoming them into your house. So if I have something that I think is like special to me and I offer it to you, don't go on TV and making fun of me and call me names and stuff. I'm trying to be like hospitable, and this is special to me. So if the moss is special to me and I'm trying to give it to you, take it. And even if you don't want it, you can give it away to somebody else or something like that. But don't be a jerk. Look, he's like a jerk.
Why were you giving him moss?
Because it's something that I think it's special and it's a present. And I said you could hang it on your wall. You could put it in a frame and stuff. I have some on my, in a dish in the house. Because what it does is it takes the carbon dioxide and turns it into oxygen. So it's like a natural cleansing that you can have in your house. And not many people have it, this special moss. So I was giving them some. I was trying to help him out, get maybe a better vibe going on in his house.
And
you could tell it's like, look at him. He's like all stiff and stuff.
You named the moss?
Yeah.
What was its name?
I don't know what the one I was showing them. I don't remember. I didn't. But they have there's Lola. There's all different names. Mossy Moss, DJ Moss. I got different names for them.
Because a lot of people keep black garbage bags full of moss in their garage.
Well, it collects more. It sucks up moisture also.
Yeah.
So if I have a big black bag of it, it's going to suck up all the moisture because in South Florida we have a moisture problem where stuff gets moldy. If you knew that, you wouldn't be coughing all the
problem,
time.
not a moisture problem. We have an iguana problem, and there's one reason why.
Darren says he was reported to the community board for feeding iguanas, but he does not feel like he's breaking any rules. Well, is that true?
Yeah, it's true. I'm
we'll
not
talk
breaking
about
any
that
rule.
when we come back.
It doesn't say don't feed iguanas. It's not specific.
It says don't feed any wildlife.
Unknown wildlife. Unknown is not an iguana. Iguana is known.
Now, Matthew admits to cursing Darren out for what he believes is selfish behavior that adversely affects all the homeowners who have to deal with cleaning up these iguana droppings from around, for fixing damage caused by the iguanas who are invading the area because Darren is feeding them. Now, Matthew reported Darren to the community board president, who declined participating today. Do you give any credence at all to any of their complaints, or do you think they're just completely off the wall?
Honestly, I'm doing me, man. You know, when you say you do, that's what I go by. You do you. If it's making me feel good, I don't care what they think, dude. Do you think I give a crap what they think?
Well, apparently not.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Do what
Here's
you do.
Here's
Do what you do inside your own walls.
What?
Here's the problem. Do what you do inside your own walls, okay? You can't do what you do when you live in a gated community, a townhouse gated community, when the houses are connected. It affects
bring
everybody.
them into my house
That's
then
the
and let
biggest
them live in the
problem.
house?
That's the biggest problem, is that you doing this nonsense has now affected everybody.
Here's the thing. It just says, warning, beware of alligators, snakes, and unknown wildlife in the area. No swimming, fishing, boating. Don't feed any wildlife. Keep your distance.
Yeah. It doesn't say don't feed iguanas. It's not specific. Alligator, snake, and unknown wildlife. Unknown is not an iguana. Iguana is known.
It says don't feed any wildlife.
But it's not specific. That's not black and white. It's red and white, and it's also in a gray area. It says do not feed any wildlife. Well, guess what? They're not wildlife to me. So in my head, it's not wildlife. It's my friend. And if you're feeding a homeless person and the person over here is mad because there's a homeless person in their area.
Iguanas are not homeless. They live in the pond.
But they depend on me.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
There are thousands of them down there that get by. I've never met you. They don't listen to your music. They don't come to your house.
But the ones that do like me and love me and have a vibe toward me, they expect me to come outside and feed them.
They don't have expectations. They do.
You just don't know.
You need to get a life, not a lizard.
You don't know.
Florida Wildlife says there is an infestation of iguanas.
Is, but not in my yard.
Yes, you're drawing them into your yard.
Yeah, so I could take care of them
and
I can
you're feeding them
control
out
the
of your mouth,
population.
and they have salmonella. You can get botulism.
Yeah, well,
this can cause paralysis.
Did I ever get that in my paralysis? No, I'm not. I got bit by the iguana. Did I get salmonella? No. I put peroxide on it. Not yet. I mean, it's been months. I'm not like, I don't get stuff like that because I am out in the nature. Do I look infected? I'm not infected.
Let me ask you a question. If you love the iguanas and your neighbors don't, and you want to be mature about this, why don't you go to the iguanas? I'm sure there's a pond or a marsh around there where they hang out and tell iguana jokes.
They do. It's out on it's right out back there. It's like 20 feet from the patio.
Then you can go out to where they are, but don't draw them into the houses where they eat the vegetation and burrow under the patios.
But
and
I
that
can't
sort of
do
thing.
that. I have a relationship with them already.
You can have a relationship with them where they live.
And then it's going to be worse. Then they're going to be like, oh, he's going down to the pond. Like, I'm on my own property. So if they come to me, it's like not a big deal. But if I go down into the common ground, that's when they're going to get me. He's probably got it all planned out with the board and everything. They're waiting for that.
You have completely lost your mind.
You probably told
you
this
have lost your
doctor-
mind. Listening to you right now, listen, I thought you were bad. Hearing how you're breaking this down, I don't even know if there's any hope for you.
You probably got with the doctor and the board and told them, let's tell him to go to the lake and play with the iguanas, and then we're going to get them. Because then they got video footage.
You're right. You know what? I sent big Marge a text message and I let her know.
You caught us. This is Iguana Gate.
It's like a corporate thing.
We'll meet Darren's daughter and her boyfriend to find out how they feel about this feud with the neighbors when we come back. Closed captioning provided by...
I'm gonna show you how easy it is to like hose it off. I don't know why people worry about this stuff, but look, see? You just literally hose it right off.
Darren says he's in an ongoing feud with his neighbors, particularly Matthew, and an ongoing relationship with Large Marge and Bruno, because Darren admittedly feeds the iguanas who roam free on the grounds of their peaceful South Florida townhome community. Now, why am I talking about this is, we have enough things to be bent out of shape about. And just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should. And, sometimes we have to step back and say, hey, you know what? What can I do to get along? Is there a way we can find some common ground here? Now, Darren's daughter, Ariella, says she doesn't see the problem with her father's behavior. Her boyfriend, Kyle, told my producers that he really cares for Darren a lot, but secretly wishes he would stop feeding the green iguanas. Your dad's feeding them out of his mouth. And
they like that.
I'm sure they do. But that can cause you to get sick, and it can cause paralysis. It can get seriously troublesome. What do you think about what your dad's doing?
I thought at first it was a really cute thing. They would just come up on the patio. They would always come out when my dad was there. At first, it really wasn't harmful. Like, he would just bring fruit out there.
It was fun. It was really fun at first.
I have videos on my own phone of it because I thought it was funny. I really didn't see a problem with it.
Until there were about 6, 7 of them at a time sometimes, and we're getting threatened by the neighbors, and it's a big back and forth. And I think, it's just ongoing. It's not necessarily, it doesn't bother us, but we're worried about him to the extent we don't want him to get hurt. We don't want anything to happen, in the community.
What do you think about the health issues here?
The thing is, I have a bond with them, and I am immune to salmonella, so I'm not going to catch it. I already touched the iguana poop. I touched the iguanas. I fed them out of my mouth. That iguana is not the only thing I ever fed. I went to New York City and fed the pigeons out of my mouth. They're flying rats. Did I catch salmonella? No. So, with that said, I'm immune to salmonella.
Sometimes I wish you would just leave the food out there for them and not do things like that. The last thing I would want to do is to see her.
It's definitely fun. I mean, I definitely get a good laugh
Maybe
out of
have
it.
your friends come over and look at my dad. Look, he feeds it. Go do it, Dad. Put something in your mouth. Let them feed it for them.
Yeah, but you're gaining new information now, right? You're gaining new information now, like salmonella and botulism, and drawing these things up to your...
People shoot it in their face anyway, don't they?
We're going to meet an iguana expert, which I'm not, but there is someone who is, who says it seems like Darren is treating the reptiles as pets, and it's illegal to have pet iguanas without a permit in the state of Florida. And we'll find out whether it's safe to be doing what he's doing.
I don't do illegal.
Imagine walking into your bathroom and seeing this.
I came in, opened the lid, and there it was staring back at me.
Yup, an iguana had slithered its way through the pipes and into Bruce and Janet Flyer's toilet in their home in Hollywood, Florida.
I felt like Godzilla was looking at us.
A professional iguana trapper was called in.
You got him? Yeah. Okay, well, don't come too close to me.
Are you on edge in your home?
Not on edge until I walk into the bathroom each time, and I have to admit that we definitely look before we sit.
You look before you sit?
Always, and I always will for the rest of my life.
We would be moving.
They're scared of the little thing in their toilet bowl.
If Robin opened up that lid and there was a lizard in there, we would get moving boxes, and off we would go. We're talking about neighbors feuding over iguanas. Like we don't have enough things to do in America. We need to feud over iguanas. It sounds trivial, but the residents say, look, this is a serious issue. Darren says there's no harm in feeding the reptiles, but his neighbor Matthew says the iguana invasion that is damaging their properties, eating up their vegetation, is all an unnecessary problem. You don't need, they're there anyway. You don't need to draw them up needlessly. We reached out to a certified iguana expert, and yeah, they do exist, to have him weigh in on this conversation. So please welcome Perry Calato, owner of Redline Iguana Removal in the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area. So thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. What can you tell us about this, Perry? I'm saying he shouldn't be feeding these out of his mouth to start with, that they do have bacteria, that you shouldn't be handling them, putting your hands in your mouth. You shouldn't be feeding them out of your mouth. It's not a good idea. Tell me what's going on here.
I agree with you 100%, Dr. Phil. And to you, man, I understand why you want to do this and you think that you're helping them in the long run. Me personally, I was born and raised in South Florida. For 29 years, I've lived there. And I've seen their population expand over the time I've lived there. To give you a little bit of background about them, they're actually not native to Florida. They're native to Central and South America. They were brought in around the 1960s in the pet trade, and they were let go. People like yourself, they think they're really cute when they're really small, and then they outgrow their cage very quickly, and you can't take care of them anymore, so now they're in the wild.
I take care of them even
just to give you a little bit of,
let him speak.
Just to give you a little bit of how big of a problem it is. I work for a local fire department down there, and I opened up a company specific to remove this one animal. And we are very busy removing that one animal.
So you're a nature hater.
I'm not, sir. I actually really do love our native wildlife and plants, and these guys are non-native to Florida, which in turn is causing issues for our native plants and animals, and it's out-competing them. Each female can lay up to 70 eggs a year, and they don't really have any natural predators. Once they get to Bruno size, like you have here, there's nothing to limit their population, which in turn can be very detrimental to our native plants and animals.
Well, that's your opinion.
It's actually a fact, man. I'm sorry.
No, you know what? First of all, you bring a nature hater on the show. You have him sitting there. You don't even tell me that.
You didn't even know they had teeth.
It's all right.
Well, I know now.
Not only are you not giving them the ability to search for food on their own, now they feel comfortable on your property to where they can bite a kid. If a kid's sitting in his backyard eating a sandwich, they can come and bite his hand.
But they're not gonna.
And
they
these
don't know
things
that
are,
kid.
like
they
you
know
said,
me.
you're an adult and you started bleeding very easily. These things bite like an alligator and they roll. And their nails can carry salmonella underneath them as well because they walk around in their feces. So you might not be affected by their bacteria, but a little kid, a dog, somebody else might. And that's
because
the issue.
little Johnny never been outside, and that's why they don't have an immune system like I do.
But also, your neighbors, the one that you have on TV here as well, you're attracting more iguanas to your property and to your neighbor's property. So not only are they not competing for food anymore because they get it from you, now they can focus more on breeding, which is going to be an even bigger issue for you guys later on.
Okay, whatever. Enjoy life, man. Feel it.
Darren and Matthew say they want the feuding to end, but is that even possible at this point? I'll tell you what I think when we come back. Closed captioning provided by...
More and more iguanas are now roaming through Cape Coral. Neighbors say the invasive species is damaging their seawall.
Scurrying along canals and into backyards, neighbors in southeast Cape Coral say these green iguanas are making themselves at home outside of their homes.
This is the most we've seen in a while. We'll see up to 8 or 10 on our deck at a time.
Green iguanas are an invasive species, so FWC says neighbors can get them off private property by capturing them or even killing them, as long as it's humane. But some neighbors say they'd like to see the city send in professionals to take out these unwanted guests.
Well, all hour long, we've been talking about feuding neighbors. The subject is iguanas, but it's about feuding. Is there any theory under which you would alter your behavior?
No.
No.
Why should I alter what I feel is right? Like what I have a connection to? Would you alter something that you have a connection to? I don't know if you have pets or anything, but if your neighbor said, don't feed your pet anymore, are you going to like listen to them? Or are you going to keep feeding them?
You said you didn't have pets, and I think that's the position you're embracing, since that would be illegal. So I don't think.
Well, that's how I draw the line. See, they come to me. I'm not technically keeping them as a pet, so there's no problem here. It's just he has the problem. The guy over Sasquatch over there.
Well, I don't think he's. I don't think he's invading your right to peaceably occupy your home and
he has the problem.
And get
nature
along.
Hater over there.
I'm not a nature
How do you feel
this,
killing them things, and then when you go up to heaven one day and God says, hey man, remember that creature I put on the earth and you just killed 5,000 of them?
You can think what you
Let's
want,
see what
sir,
your
but at
job's
the end of the day, I just want to help our native plants and animals that are supposed to be there. And when these things get brought in and they're non-native and they're an invasive species, it outcompetes our native wildlife, and then that in turn kills
Let me ask you a question now. Do you feel good about killing them?
That's not a question. I don't get any
joy
out
of
killing anything.
Is that a question? Maybe if the doctor asked you.
Well, here's the thing.
How do you feel about killing the iguana that just had that bond with me and everybody saw it? How do you feel about killing that thing? Like it's literally an alive
I'm going to have the last word here because it's my name on the wall.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I strongly suspect that their bond is with the food, not you.
No, it's not.
And I'm just giving my opinion. And I don't think you're the best listener because you're talking while other people are talking, which means you're not listening to what they're saying. It's hard to learn.
I listened to everything you guys all said. I listen and talk. I multitask.
Yeah.
So I can do all that.
Yeah. And you're immune to salmonella.
Immune to salmonella, multitask. I got everything he said. I got everything you said.
I hope you protect yourself and don't get infected. It's not a good idea what you're doing. I highly recommend you stop doing it. That's my advice to you. Matthew, I hope you guys don't have a physical confrontation. Highly recommend against that. I highly recommend against that. There are other.
Listen, I wanted to end. I don't want to live like this. It's exhausting. It's annoying. But you could just see how Darren, shut up for 5 minutes and just let me talk. Just shut up. You've cut everybody off. Just shut up for 5 minutes.
You're not getting to the point.
Stop. So here's the thing. Like you said, he doesn't listen. He's got an answer for everything. Everything. I'm willing to say, listen, I'll bury this. I'll squash this. We can pretend it never happened. Just stop what you're doing.
We reached out to Darren, who told my team he felt a little bad for his neighbor Matthew after the taping. So he spoke with his church pastor, who told him because of the Bible, he had to stay friends with his neighbors. Darren says he invited Matthew and his wife over for dinner and offered him an actual physical olive branch to symbolize an apology. Darren claims things have been better since the dinner, as they don't fight. Darren also says Matthew accepted another peace offering, a bowl of moss called Diana moss. Even with the alleged peace offering, Darren admits he has not stopped feeding the iguanas. We also reached out to Matthew, who also agreed they're doing okay now, but believes Darren, well, is still a little weird. For more information about today's episode, log on to drphil.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And if you want to keep up with all things Dr. Phil, scan the flow code on the screen. This will link you to exclusive content you can't get anywhere else. Plus, you can follow and subscribe to my podcast, Fill in the Blanks. I really talk about critical information on some of the most important issues that all of us are facing today. And check out Robin's podcast, I've Got a Secret with Robin McGraw. Listen for free on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks. We'll see you next time.